Okay, welcome to part 5.1. So this is the rest of what you need that's required, and then you're going to watch part 5.2 for additional things, and you'll pick what you want. You need at least one from the second video. So you watch the whole second video, you kind of decide what you want. Before I move on though, I'm going to erase my X's that I don't need. All right, so now I'm gonna put on like 2 handles on this door. So I want the top and bottom of the handles, and the door uses the right vanishing point, so anything on the door also uses the right vanishing point. And I want like fancy handles. Okay, so that gives me a guideline. And so since this is to the right of the vanishing point, the door uses the right vanishing point. And so anything on the door uses the right vanishing point. So if I wanted curved big pieces, they would curve to the right because it's on the right-hand side. So big, if you wanted just little doorknobs, you would be able to see like the oval. Then you'd be able to see a little bit of the side of it. Little doorknobs, but notice how they point to the right. Let's say I wanted just like a bar as the opener. Well, then I'd be able to see a little bit of the side of it too. So you kind of decide what kind of handles you would like. I'm gonna make mine like kind of bigger and curved slightly. For my front door there. These I'm just going to do doorknobs. So they're on the left hand side of the corner, so they're going to angle to the left. So it's the opposite of this. So if you have a door on the left side, goes to the left vanishing point, then you'll be able to see the angled side angling to the left. So it's pointing to the left on the left door, on the left hand side of the corner, and it's pointing to the right. So that's just to make it look more three-dimensional, but if you're staying simple, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Okay, so I'm going to go make my little doorknob, make a littler one up here. Sharpen your pencil before you draw a tiny detail. Okay, so design your doors, that's required. Walkways are required, so we want to make them look a little bit more believable, like they're coming out into space. So we're going to do the concrete divisions for them. And then you can decide if you want to turn it into flagstone or stone or pavers or whatever you want, you know, the surface to be made out of. So I'm going to line up with the edge of my patio, or you can just like line up anywhere, and you're going to make your first sidewalk division. So I'm going to divide. Okay. So then I'm going to make my little vertical angled edge, little tiny vertical edges. Okay, so they should be getting bigger as they come out towards us. So we're just going to kind of eyeball and make sure. So I'm lined up with the right vanishing point, and we want to make sure they're getting slightly bigger as they're coming out towards us. So vertical little cutoff, vertical little cutoff. So it looks like a little step. Okay, so then my next one. So those line up with the right vanishing point, vertical, vertical. Okay, so then the last one, for this one, still always vertical. Looks like it's coming out at us. Over here, you can do the same thing. If you wanted to divide it going vertical away from the house, you can. So I'm going to do the bottom. My vanishing point's on the bottom. I'm going to do the bottom of the strip so I can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm still going to do a little vertical cutoff. And now these are going to get smaller as they're going away from us. So closer together. There is a mathematical equation for the percentage of how much smaller it gets depending on like the actual dimensions of the space. But just know that they should be smaller here and bigger here. And they should be bigger here and smaller here. Okay, so that's the basic. If that's all you want, that's all you want. You could go back and turn it into bricks or stones. So usually, or a flagstone maybe. So if I wanted to make it look like stone, then perhaps I kind of like twitch my arm a little bit. I can fill in little stones and make it irregular looking. So staying vertical. And so you just want to make sure that they're slightly bigger here and then a little bit smaller as they get further away from you. So then if you wanted to like do a little bit of shading in them, you can add a little bit of texture before we shade. That would become part of the shading to make it look like stone. You could do smaller little cobble if you want to do even smaller divisions. I would do X marks the spot, or let's say you want pavers. Okay, so that tells us where the middle is of that piece. And then I could divide it. Okay, then if I wanted to, I have the division there, so I would line that up with my vanishing point on the other side, just like the sides are. So I wouldn't do all of these. Pick what you like. So then I have 4 pavers. So then I'd probably go back and maybe try to like round off and create like stone pavers, or I can draw an X and like make it even smaller. So I could put pavers down. I can leave it as is. I've had some students that would divide it into 4s and then do like little pebbles, making sure they get smaller and the one that's further away. So when you get over here, then your circles will be fairly small to show distance or depth. So same thing, if you're going to use stone or flagstone or pavers or little cobblestones, whatever you put here, it would be smaller over here. And maybe whatever you put like in this area, it would be about the same size. So you're going to design your walkways. All right, so the next thing I wanted to show you guys is if you wanted to include a street, it's completely optional. Actually, let me double check our required list. Okay, yes. So you need to have windowsills with at least 2 panes of glass. I have 4. If you have 4, you're good. You need to design your doors, add a doorknob. You need to design your walkway and driveway. And now you need to pick 1 extra item, which I'm going to do the first one in this video and the rest will be in the next video. So this one, if you want to include a road, we can cut it off, cut off this, and we can put 2 roads like meeting here as if your house is on the corner. So this is one of the optional items. You do need to pick 1 optional item. So before you design all your walkways, decide if you want to do a road or not. So I'm going to do maybe like here. I'm going to move it in slightly. Okay, lining up with my right vanishing point. And we're going to just make a piece of it. So then if you did draw anything in there, I would erase it out. Okay. All right, so I'm going to draw the width or the thickness of the sidewalk meeting the road. making sure it's slightly bigger here, and it will naturally get smaller there. Okay, so then I can curve this down if I want, or if I want my walkway to just end, then I'm going to do my vertical end to my walkway, vertical end. Okay. For the driveway, maybe you just want to like kind of curve it into the road itself. That's totally fine. Okay, so to find the center point of the road, I just kind of look at this space down here, find the halfway point, use it as a guideline. I'm going to give myself a guideline for the center lines in the road. So you can divide it and have that center line. You can keep it like that, or if you want the little dashed lines like on a highway going out in the distance, then the divisions would actually line up with the left vanishing point because they're like parallel to these sides of the sidewalk. Okay, just make sure that your little lines get super tiny in the distance and they get bigger as they get closer to us. Okay, so I'm lining up these little divisions with my left vanishing point, making sure my spacing is getting bigger as it comes out. Okay, and that's going to go off the page. Okay, so now I'm going to erase every other, or in between. Okay, and then you can kind of fix it up a little bit. So just make sure they get longer as they come out towards us. So if you wanted to do a street, you could. I'm going to add one on this side in case you want to do it. You can have just one road. You can have two roads. You could have no roads. This is optional. So over here, so since it's coming from the left side, it's using the left vanishing point. And I want it to be about the same width, I believe. So I'm just eyeballing it. Just looking with my eyes, kind of making a determination. Here's about halfway. I am going to do this side that we're facing to make it look like it has depth or dimension. If you wanted to add like a sidewalk, so let's say I wanted this to be like the patio going up to the sidewalk, you could add a whole sidewalk here. So you can add on to it. There is tons of stuff on YouTube. So if you're like, how would I do this in 2-point perspective? Ms. Kramer's not here to answer my questions. I just YouTube it. Like YouTube is fabulous for perspective. Like every time I'm teaching my upper level 3 and 5 point. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, 3 and 5 point. And so I always just watch it to review for myself. Like, how do you do that? Okay. But always use your ruler. So a lot of people on YouTube don't use their rulers. You have to use a ruler. Okay, so I go through the same process of dividing. I'm not going to go through the same process again, but just know that all those divisions do line up with the right vanishing point. So if you are making those divisions, you're lining up your ruler or your strip of poster board. Actually, I'd probably go the underneath part so I can see it. So lining up all those divisions with the right vanishing point for the road center. Okay, so that is optional. And then in video 5.2, it'll be some other optional things that you can do to finish out your drawing. So I'm going to finish my road because I am going to keep it as part of my drawing. And I'll show you some additional things. You have now finished part 5.1.